One thing I want to talk about now is trends, market trends. What the heck does that mean? Well, there's trend following, and of course, there's this element of momentum investing or momentum trading. And the chart that you see here actually is Tesla. Congrats to all the Tesla longs out there in the world today. It's been a fantastic trade, depending on when your entry price was, but really, most people got a great entry price for. It's hard to be a loser at this point in Tesla unless you really chased all the way up here and now are suffering from this drawdown. But let's talk about the momentum aspect of this and the trend of this and what that even means. Okay, so there's a few key points about this that we have to get onto paper. One element is that strength begets strength. Another element is that buyers are in control. And then the third element, of course, is sentiment tilts bullish, and that can span many things like media coverage and chatter and popularity. So this element of momentum investing and sometimes even trend following, it's not so much about fundamentals at all. It's not so much about what's actually happening in the world, but it sometimes can just be such a random moment where these three things come together on the chart. And there's a school of thought that says out there, price does not lie, price tells truth. And if the price of an asset is trending up, regardless of anything you heard about it, well, there's clearly more buyers coming in than people actually willing to sell the stock. And so what you get is this strength begets strength. And there are a few ways to measure this type of trend, and that's kind of what I'm showing on this chart here. I have actually a 200-day moving average overlaid on the chart. So it's the average price of Tesla over the last 200 days. And if you look closely, you can just see how it's trending upward. And I kid you not, there are some investors out there, buying programs even, bots, algorithms, you name it, and their whole strategy is basically just buy things that are in an uptrend. And it sounds silly, it sounds crazy, but that happens in markets. They don't care what the bottom line says, revenue or not, profits or not, just buy it because it's going up. And when you have enough people doing that on a systematic basis, well, guess what? You're going to get this smooth trend just heading right up into the sky, or that's probably how people came to say things like to the moon. And so that's really what I am trying to demonstrate in this quick video is you have this element of strength begets strength. So more strength leads to more strength. You have buyers are in control, meaning that each subsequent rally higher is essentially more profits and more staying power for the people who were in, say, back here. They're just watching their gains increase. And you can kind of see how that starts to feed on itself. And what's really notable is as the asset rises in price, it actually gains more media attention. So you kind of see now how that strength begets strength because, well, Tesla hit all-time highs here. It was in the news. Tesla hit all-time highs here. It was in the news. Tesla became one of the top 5 most valuable companies by market cap. It was in the news. So you can kind of get how that starts to happen. It starts to feed on itself in a way. And people will just go ahead and they will buy high with the goal of selling higher. And that's kind of actually where this old Buffett mentality is kind of, falling apart. And if Buffett was, for example, buy low and sell high, something that's kind of happening in markets today, you could just call it momentum, we'll do MOMO for short, is buy high and sell higher. So you can sort of see these two different schools of thought. And Tesla's a great example of this idea of buying high and selling higher. And what it really comes down to most of the time is, sure, there's a great underlying business, but there's more to the equation generally. And that equation can be sometimes complicated, but also sometimes fairly easy. So what would that equation be? It generally, and what I'm saying here is how I perceive this to work. And I actually tell it to you now in a video because I kind of hope to make people think a little deeper about these types of trades or investments, myself included. So one would be, there's a story to tell. That means there's a compelling story. And a compelling story can reach people rather fast and create an asset, let's say an asset, not bubble, but just a general interest in a particular asset, and get people interested in it, sharing it with friends, buying it, trading it. Just get the ball moving a little. So if there's a story, it can go a long way. And the story can sometimes detach from fundamentals. So the story detaches from fundamentals, meaning Tesla makes the same amount of money as, say, General Motors. Well, actually, Tesla arguably makes less, or their revenue's less, but the story of Tesla is so much more powerful that it's detached itself from the actual underlying business more so than General Motors. And by the way, this video is not at all knocking Tesla or saying it's overvalued. It's just trying to explain how these trends can happen. And there's an equation out there for sure, and I'm trying to list them out. There's a story to tell. The story detaches from fundamentals. And then, of course, what's also particularly important about this is price rises with that story. And then, of course, you have your trend following crowd. And then, of course, you get this momentum that we just spoke about. Momentum push, we'll say. And these are some of the important aspects of what it means when a stock or an asset is trending higher. There are all of these descriptive and abstract concepts happening. And at the end of the day, though, it's really just about that it's a game of popularity. And with these things that I'm writing out on the chart, I'm just trying to kind of explain how that popularity starts. And, it's not to say it's a bad way to invest. There are plenty of people who have made a living doing this. And as an example, there's actually a story that goes way, way back in time called the Turtle Traders. And the Turtle Traders, it's actually a fascinating story. The Turtle Traders was two particular gentlemen. One of their names was Richard Dennis of C&D Commodities, and he actually made a bet with a coworker of his. And what you see on the screen right now is a real advertisement that was put, I believe, in the Wall Street Journal back in, I think, the 80s. And what happened was Richard Dennis and his partner made a bet. His partner said to him, "You are the best trader I know. This can't be taught. This is skill. What you're doing takes skill. No one else can just do this." And he said, No, you're wrong. I'm just following some basic principles, and I can teach anyone to do these principles. Sure enough, he put this ad in the paper, and people applied, and they let several people into the program. And as the story goes, some of them eventually became hedge fund managers. Some of them had incredible careers just following this trend following strategy, which is, a few simple rules. Buy a breakout. So like, here's a breakout, let's say. So buy this. Sell if it, say, retraces 10 or 20%. So sell here. Then they'd probably hold and then buy this breakout. And then there's no retracement, so they would have held through this breakout. So there's these simple rules of just buying breakouts in upward trends and selling after, say, a 10% drawdown from that trend. And he taught that same methodology to groups of people who came through his front door from this famous advert in a newspaper. And like I said, some of them became hedge fund managers eventually. And I showed Tesla on this chart because it's a great example of a trend following asset in this point in time. Everybody knows Tesla. Everybody's talked about it at some point. And let's just make this chart as simple as possible. All we're going to do is show a weekly chart, and you can sort of just see this sloping upward trend. And it doesn't matter what the fundamentals are at this point. And sometimes that's just how it goes. A story catches on and people want a piece of it. It's been happening for a long time, and sometimes these stories don't end well. That's also what's really important. Sometimes these things will fall apart completely. You can look back at some of the biggest scandals in market history where an asset spiked and then it eventually came to be that it wasn't as good as perceived and it eventually crashed. I'm not saying Tesla isn't as good as perceived. Sometimes these assets really are. People don't often talk about the ones that actually make it and become something. Apple's a great example. Look at the trend of this chart. It's very hard to ignore this trend. Yes, the fundamentals do line up a little bit more, but it's just up and to the right, or this would be up and to the right on this chart. And that is essentially what it means to be a momentum investor or trend trend follower. You are just looking for these opportunities. Things that are catching interest, they're surfacing, they're getting attention, they are going up and to the right, and then you are getting involved in that. And some trend followers will do that because they firmly believe in the product. So maybe you did buy Apple as a trend follower and you totally believe in Apple's mission, and you actually also believe in its fundamentals and its story. That's fine, you've done great. There are those, though, who actually don't even care about the company. They actually just set rules for themselves. Kid you not, just set the rules, set it and forget it, and then they walk away. And there's nothing wrong with that. People have different ways of playing the market. I wanted to make this, though, just to talk about this type of trend following and momentum investing. Now, I should say this really quick. I'm only trying to capture the broad narratives and stories in this video. I am not at all trying to, define it in one simple box. There are plenty of different ways of this type of trading, but the point is this. Most likely, if you're a trend follower or a momentum investor, what I'm telling you right now in this video overlaps with your strategy to some degree. And if you're looking to learn more about momentum investing or trend following, I believe these are important things to know. You want to know what you're getting involved in when you read about this or dive into it. And it really just comes down to this idea that something is trending upward. There's a story. There's clear bullish sentiment. There's an element that buyers are in control. And then, of course, there's just this huge sentiment tilt of whether it's media coverage, chatter, buying demand, you name it. It's the stars align to create this clear upward trend. And that's really what it comes down to. And the rules that you define, entirely up to you, but it's buying high and selling higher. It's not so much a buy low and sell high like Buffett, which I can make another video on down the road. And also, one final thing I want to add, because it's possible someone will watch this video and completely disagree. I get it. But I want to add this because it's super important. There are some trend followers and momentum investors who do combine their strategy with fundamental analysis, which is beautiful, because what you can do is you can actually trend follow or buy based on fundamental metrics. For example, pull up revenue. And what you could essentially do is buy this trend. And this is Tesla's revenue. This is pretty awesome. So this actually, I should have shown this earlier on in the chart. You could be buying into this trend alone, this growing revenue trend. And that's really important to communicate, because sometimes there's a rare few who combine the two. They see the upward price trend, they see the upward trend in revenue, they create their system, and they're off. And I just ultimately hope this video helps anyone interested in the subject get started, or if you're an expert and you're just stumbling across my video here. I'd love to hear your thoughts, how you think I explained it. And yeah, perhaps I can try again. I'll answer your comments below. Thanks for watching.